ACC basketball this weekend. Couple notes here. The ACC did move some things around for Saturday. Wake Forest at Duke moved from 5:45 p.m. to noon. That's Eastern time. It's on the CW. North Carolina at Virginia, big game there. You have that moving from 2 p.m. to noon, now airing on ESPN2. Virginia Tech at Louisville moves from 3:45 p.m. to 2:15 p.m., airing on the CW. NC State at Pitt is a noon game. That's always what it's been, and it will now air on ESPNU. So all those times, Eastern time for the ACC, they move some things around. SMU is hosting FSU in another matchup here. This is going to be a really quiet Moody Coliseum, I would imagine, on Saturday at 3 p.m. Central, as Dallas is going to have a winter storm, and they will be hosting the Seminoles in this matchup. 14-5 overall, 3-3 in ACC play. SMU versus 8-11 Florida State, 1-5 in ACC play. The Seminoles did fly in. They are here in Dallas, so they are ready to go on Saturday. It will be snow, ice, all of the things, but all things here in Dallas do say that this game will be played. And as we get to the rest of this Saturday slate now for college basketball in the ACC, Wake Forest at Duke, 11 a.m. Again, Wake coming off that loss to SMU. You'd expect the Blue Devils to roll in Cameron Indoor. UNC facing off against UNC going on the road to face Virginia. Could be an interesting matchup here between the Hoos and the Tar Heels. The Tar Heels getting back on track earlier this week, of course, and then Virginia, I believe they had their bye this week, so they did not play a game during the week. So they are getting back to it after a little bit of a break there. And Clemson does head to Georgia Tech, looking to get back on track. You would think Tigers would win that one. Georgia Tech's, not among the league's best by any means, but certainly a team that could get a little hot, especially with Clemson going away from Little John. You never know there. NC State heads to Pitt, looking to keep the momentum there off of that win at Clemson. Miami heads to Syracuse, looking to get back on track after their loss to Florida State. And then you've got Virginia Tech heading to number 23, Louisville, on that afternoon game. And that is one that, Louisville really kind of reeling right now in a kind of an interesting situation, 13-5 overall on the year. They're missing Michael Brown. I did not see an update before the show if he is going to be available for this one, but the Cards are certainly hoping to get him back into the fold here very soon. Them talking about his direction, trending in the right way as he has returned to practice, but his status is still unknown. They could certainly use him in that matchup against Virginia Tech, a really, really Virginia Tech team that has dealt with a lot of close losses, including that heartbreaker recently against SMU. That they're a competitive team. They'll play really hard and be ready to rock. BC heads to Notre Dame in an evening matchup, 5 p.m. Central Time on ACC Network. Cal at Stanford, 7 p.m. on ACC Network. Lucky for those two programs, they do not have to go into the winter storm travel across the country. Appreciate you guys. We've got Lenoris Murray, the U. Appreciate you jumping in the chat there. Make sure you're subscribed. Juan Manuel Ventura, I tamper with my neighbor's mangoes. I love it. College basketball is here. Football is unfortunately over, but we will not stop talking about football on this show. We are going to do all sorts of portal kind of recaps, team by team, try to dive into them, have some really interesting and fun shows. So make sure you jump in the comments and tell me what you'd like to see. This is that time of year where we're going to try to get coaches, players on the show and talk about their seasons. And Billy, am I doing the show in my garage? No, I'm not. This is my office. So this is the setup I've got. Got the bookcase going. I don't keep picture frames and memorabilia in the garage, but I appreciate the question, Juan Manuel. We'll definitely keep it going. By the way, the garage, is cold right now, which I run hot, so that would be fine by me. But in the summer, I would be it would not be a pretty sight for you guys, even if we had some more professional lights in here. But we appreciate you guys being here, especially Juan Manuel. Thanks for jumping in the chat. Make sure you're subscribed to our All Access AM YouTube channel. Helps us grow the show. We've got a lot of fun playing for you guys, though, as college football is now winding down. It's now the world of way too early lists and what'd you get in the portal and how do you finish, if at all, in the National Signing Day date coming up in February? Do you add any more players from the high school ranks, or is it all portal? And you're getting guys checked in for the spring semester. You're getting out on the road, doing some recruiting before the dead period hits. So it is just kind of that final sprint for these college football coaches that, for the most part, thanks to the ACC having a bunch of bowl teams and a strong bowl season, went from the end of the season right into the high school recruiting and getting out on the road and seeing recruits, then meanwhile welcoming in transfers. It's a wild calendar. I don't envy these guys, but they get paid handsomely to do it, and it's fun for us to talk about too, so we appreciate that. Last question here from Juan. How are you shocked with the transfer portal has gone down seriously? I would say with the transfer portal, I shouldn't be surprised with the way college athletics has now gone, with the things that are being allowed as far as, okay, you get more years of eligibility, you get unlimited transfers, or you get this, or you get that. But meanwhile, we're enforcing still rules like, here's a portal window, here's when you can and can't enter. And by the way, grad transfers have to be in or out by a certain time. You don't have that factoring in as much. I'm sure somebody's going to try to challenge that after the spring. But my issue is if we're going to also sign contracts with these players, 1099 contracts, however you want to view them, and you're giving up NIL rights, or you're giving up this, or you're giving up that, and you're getting well compensated, well, let's have a little bit of stability in that regard. And I know that has to be probably collectively bargained at one point or the other, or that could involve Congress stepping in saying, hey, the NCAA is unique here. They're not employees, but they also can set their own contracts and enforce their own rules and do all those things. If we see a return to that, I don't think we're far off. But where the issue is we're thanks, Juan. Look, after the garage comment, I was wondering, but I appreciate this. You're making too much sense. We do have a world where college football fans, now more than ever, they want to win, right? You have this instant gratification transfer portal, being able to move in and out. You have the opportunity to go make money, and you have these schools that can throw money at it. Well, that obviously puts more pressure on coaches, that puts more pressure on universities to raise money, that should put more pressure on the players to produce at a high level. But schools don't release, obviously, how much these players make. So it would be really interesting where, if we knew what players were making, would we see that shift to the NFL, as far as some people being like, oh, I can't believe we paid XYZ player this when they're doing all of these things that aren't good enough for us to be where we want to be. And then how much of it is, okay, well, let's evaluate the general manager who signed that deal, and how much of that is on the coach, because we see the coach have a good roster and do well. Okay, how does that work? There are some things that need to be ironed out here, because I don't think we're too far off from the right mix of, hey, we have these guidelines, these contracts that can be signed. Let's make sure they're enforceable. Let's make sure they're real. And then we'll have a little bit more stability in college football. And I wonder if, because contracts could then be enforced, would we see less of them for multi-year? Okay, that's fine. That's the free market doing its thing. Or would we see agents say, all right, I like my player, but let me get him into a 2-year deal here. That's good for me. That's good for him. Maybe we'll take a little bit less. And then you see a little bit more college football stability. And I would love to see more, let's say, accountability for how these rosters are built. You think about where FSU is right now, and you think about how they've built what they currently have. It's not talked about enough in terms of, Michael Alford having to answer questions around, this organizational setup they have. Hey, how is this Mike Norvell's roster? Is this, the new general manager coming in there? Those type of questions, like an owner of an NFL team might have to answer, they don't happen in college football. College football in general and college athletics is so cloaked in obscurity and, not talking about certain things. Well, now that we're in this whole situation, it's okay to call it tampering. And, some coach might stumble upon this show and say, God, man, the guy was just accusing us of tampering. No, the rules generally allow you to have some sort of ability to contact a player, whether it be a third party, whether it be a collective, whether it be a marketing agency. All of those things happen. So let's don't pretend that they don't happen. They happen. And don't make a big stink out of them happening, because everybody has to hold on to their roster. But if that player you're going after has a 2-year deal, it should just be, oh, okay, yeah, well, all right, 2-year deal. Okay, I guess that's the end. Instead, we're seeing a very public, ugly legal battle play out here. And hopefully it's over sooner rather than later. But you have this battle playing out between two ACC schools in the same conference. So it's frustrating in that regard. And I think a little bit more transparency around these programs in general would go a long way. And it would really be something that, look, if these players are going to get paid, and I would imagine you could really go dive into certain things as far as trying to find out how much money players make and things like that. But it's still early in the coverage phase of it. I think that people are learning where to go, what is going to be really frowned upon, what is going to be really looked down upon by colleges, and then does that impact your ability to actually cover as the gatekeepers of that? Because the NFL just has so many really rules in place through collective bargaining that make it such a business and very transactional and doing all those things. So the college sports space needs a little bit more of that. We're getting there, but it's still, things like the Damon Williams situation, things like the Darian Mensah situation just aren't good. They're not good for the sport because they're moving all of these pieces around that should otherwise have rules in place. Like, I don't think we should have a lawless system. And that's where the challenges here are trying to take people that are trying to at least have a set of rules and guidelines in place and flip them on their head. And it just ends up being, I just think it ends up hurting people more than you think. And that's not me saying Miami shouldn't be doing what they're doing, because the rules kind of allow it. And that's not me trying to side with Duke, because if Duke ends up losing this over something in the contract that wasn't ironclad, then that's on Duke. So it's just a no-win at the end of the day, though, because you do have, these guys that, just kind of push the envelope. And there are other ways to push the envelope, like recruit the quarterback position better out of high school, or, just go ahead and address your roster earlier when you have a quarterback who's actually leaving the program no matter what, Carson Beck, go out and address the roster earlier at such a key position. It just, and I know that again comes back to something that can be fixed, which is the calendar. So the calendar is what the calendar is for college football playoff teams that get into the semifinals and national championship, at least as of now. So happy Valentine's Day, everyone. 2027, that's when the national championship is. Silly. But or actually, it's not Valentine's Day, is it? That's Super Bowl Sunday. But that reminds me, do you think we will see two super conferences like Big Ten versus SEC, like NFL is AFC versus NFC? I don't think so, because at least as of now, you have these conferences that just want to be the big conferences that they are. And until somebody comes up with the more the NFL divisional model, and then the playoff gets changed to another scenario, like how do we work that out? So that's why I say no to two super conferences. I think the more likely thing would be, okay, does everybody get their one media rights under one house? And that's where maybe there's a commissioner, NCAA, and then you have 4 divisions of sorts versus conferences, and you can still name them what they are, but got to get some things figured out before I think we see the conferences get any bigger. If anything, you're seeing these conferences be like, oh, great, we're huge now, but also, God, we're beating each other up. Our product is diminished a little bit here. We don't play everybody. We get teams that have kind of poor situations as far as strength of schedule. Some years, like you look at Texas A&M this year, and so if anything, you need these big conferences to go to 10 conference games, and then what do you do there? So there are all sorts of things that got to be figured out in the next 4 years, heading towards that 2030 group of deadlines. So anyway, everybody, I appreciate you guys. We're here Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. We'll get back on track next week. 7 to 8 a.m. Central Time, 8 to 9 a.m. Eastern Time. I appreciate Juan Manuel Ventura for jumping in and being so active in the comments. Appreciate that a lot. And you guys, too, can subscribe to the channel, All Access AM. Just Google it, All Access AM. On YouTube, we're really focused on the ACC, college football, basketball, and obviously Portal right now. So lots of things to discuss for you ACC fans out there. Appreciate all the interaction and the chat on this Friday. Hope everybody stays warm and stays safe across the country with a lot of this weather moving through. So appreciate all of you guys joining us on All Access AM this morning. We'll see you Monday morning. I'm Billy Embody. Thanks for joining us.